We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Appreciate everyone coming. We don't have a lot, but we had a couple of things we need to talk about. And we do have 3 members of the committee here, so 3 of the 5. First thing, you have a little spreadsheet in there that I do every month, and I usually meet with the judge, which I did last week, and we go over the operations and so forth, and just kind of keep everything up to date. I like to do this quarterly, but we got a little behind this year. But anyway, just calling your attention, our operations at the landfill is going pretty well. We're going to run pretty well close to the revenue we took in last year. To me, the most important thing is probably down on the bottom, cash on hand. At the end of October, we had about $2.2 million, actually about 2.3. And that sounds like a lot of money, but as you all know, we've talked about it numerous times, we just awarded a $2.2 million contract. There's going to be times when I'm sure that they're going to be a little slower about starting due to the weather, but hopefully, and unless something really drastic happens, we're going to have the money to pay the contract when it's fulfilled. Along with paying the last payment, we still owe Mr. Hendricks on the CAO improvement. We still owe him the 10% holdback, which is about $48,000, I think. And that will put that to rest then. Are there any questions? I realize this is short notice, but are there any questions in regards to the operations and so forth? One item we are going to talk about is the overtime situation.
In looking at your budget spreadsheet, Justice Burge, the budget total expenditures down at the bottom of each month, it varies pretty widely.
Yes.
Average seem to run around 200,000.
200,000.
That's kind of what you can plan on.
Yep.
And you've got almost 2.3
Yes.
in revenues of the moment, in cash on hand of the moment.
Yes.
We got a $2 million deal, so we've got maybe a month's worth of revenues on hand over and above the $2 million that we know that we're going to have to commit.
Right. And we still have November and December operations, although it usually does drop down a little bit in November, December. So
You talking about the revenues or the
we'll have on
expenditures?
revenue, yeah, and expenditures.
Well, even on our lightest months, if you look back in January, this past January, we're almost 279,000.
Yep.
February is 243,000. So our revenues ought to upkeep with our expenditures pretty close,
Right.
maybe a little over.
Hopefully a little over. Our
So we ought to have, this is real general, but it looks like we got the 2 million with a 1 month buffer and then use the revenues of each month to cover the expenditures each month.
Right.
Am I looking at that right?
Yes, sir, you are. That's my reading of it.
All I can say is what a great job y'all have done.
Well, like I said,
For sure.
It's just been this has been a long-term thing. This has been over the last couple of years. This hasn't been done in 1 year. This has been over the last couple of years. But knowing that we had this facing us, so we think we're going to be in good shape to take care of that and start the year with operating money and take care of the other things that come along too. Any other questions on it? The guys operated, overall budget, we're only at about 59%. But that's deceiving because some of the landfill expenses come in quarterly. For example, we'll have a fourth quarter payment to ADEQ. That'll run $60,000 to $65,000. And then we have some other things. The trust fund payment will be about $50,000. So we have some last quarter expenses that will affect it some. But I think we're going to be in pretty good shape.
Well, like with
Use
cell
about-
construction also, we've got 350,000 budgeted and we've only ended up using, out of that account, 17.5.
That's right.
So there's an extra $330,000 that
Yeah.
we budgeted, but we haven't had to use yet.
Well, it's come along and we think we're gonna be in real good shape come the end of the year. Of course, you always have the January adjustment to go back to, but I do want to talk a little bit about the overtime situation, and the judge and I had this discussion last week, and he asked that we talk about it in the landfill committee meeting. If you'll notice, our overtime is running at about 128%, 54,000 through October, and there's a little sheet in your packet there that shows the second sheet. I went back the last two pay periods. I went and pulled some pay sheets. The last two pay periods, and this has been going on for 2 or 3 months, but it's continually gotten greater. In the last two pay periods, we've been averaging about $290 a day in overtime. Wow. That calculates out, if we continue at that pace, then next year we're gonna have about over $75,000 in overtime pay. And the history of the situation is, when 2 or 3 years ago, when Will was there, we had 14 employees. Every employee was drawing overtime every day. Some were drawing an hour, some were drawing more than an hour, some were drawing all kinds of things. And after that situation cleared out and Judge Brathfield came on board, the landfill, as most of you know, the landfill was in pretty dire straits. And so the decision was made to reduce manpower and to eliminate most of the overtime. We reduced the manpower down to 9 employees, and we changed the hours of the landfill and shortened it up 1 hour a day, which resulted in about a 75% cut in the overtime hours. Well, that went on for about 1.5 years, and it wasn't a problem. In the spring this year, a lot of the vendors were coming to James and explaining that we needed to be open longer and all those things. So the judge and James and everyone kind of went along, and we extended the overtime of the work landfill hours back to 8 hours a day for the scales to be open. Prior to that, for the 18 months prior to that, the scales were only open 7 hours a day. The guys would come in 30 minutes early to grease their equipment, do whatever they need to do, get the scales ready and whatever. And then they would stay 30 minutes over to close down, do whatever they wanted to, which gave everybody 8 hours a day. 7 hours with the scales open, the other hour to take care of their business as far as equipment and so forth. And then James and a couple of others would stay for an additional hour to close down the landfill, to do the covering and so forth. So we had down to where we had 4 people that were designated that could do overtime, no more than 1 hour a day, and that seemed to work out well. Well, when we went back in the spring, a few months ago, when we went back to opening the scales 8 hours a day, then our overtime just exploded again. Same situation. We have 9 employees. Everyone is drawing 1 hour of overtime a day. And then we have some people that are drawing 2, and occasionally some are even drawing 3 hours of overtime a day. Our revenue is not up any, and it's getting to be quite an expensive thing, especially in light of the insurance situation that we're all facing.
So, but it didn't increase revenues
It did
in?
not increase revenue.
Being open longer didn't make more
It
money?
has not made any more money. No.
How many vendors that wanted you to stay open longer?
2 or 3, I think. The
Commer-
biggest one is waste, it was
Yeah,
commercial
commercial,
hall.
yeah, okay, yeah.
Commercial hall. But they managed to adapt when we reduced it to 7 hours before. So my recommendation to the judge last week was that we go back to the 7 hours a day with the scales open and give the guys 30 minutes before time to come in and do what they need to do, and then 30 minutes afterwards to close down, do the reports, do whatever they needed to do, with the understanding that 2 or 3 people, probably James and probably Kenny Buck and whoever operates the covering equipment, that they would work an hour a day. They would probably need to stay an additional hour. No more than 4 people, which would give 4 hours of overtime a day, if needed. We talked about it a little bit, and Judge indicated, and I agree with him, said, well, that's going to be, if we do that, that's going to be a kind of a hard adjustment right here, the holidays coming up and everything. So my recommendation was that we make this effective January the 1st, that we change the hours effective January the 1st. That gives them plenty of time to notify the vendors if they need to change any of their schedules or whatever it might be. Then they'll have the opportunity to do that. And it'll give the employees the time to adjust whatever. Right now, they're coming in at 7 and closing at 3. If we open the scale from 7:30 to 2:30, which is the hours we had previously, they can still come in at 7, they can leave at 3. The guys that are doing the overtime that are necessary to be there, James and whoever, will be out of there by 4 o'clock on most every day, unless there's unusual circumstances. And it will reduce our overtime by about 65 to 70% for the coming year. So I won't throw that out. The judge would like for the committee to consider it and see if we have a recommendation. If we change the hours, he'd like for the recommendation to come from this committee. So.
You said it was you're talking about creating hardship at Christmas time. You're talking about for the employees that have been working overtime. Is that what we're talking about? Okay.
The ones that have gotten used to getting those extra hours.
Is it, of course, James, I know, but is it just the same 2 or 3 all the time, or is it?
Everybody.
Well, as it stands right now, everybody's getting at least 1 hour a day. The time cards I looked at, all 9 were getting 1 hour a day, and 2 or 3 more, most of the time 3, sometimes 4, we're getting 2 hours a day. But all 9 were getting 1 hour a day. Every card I looked at 3 different pay periods.
Through October, we had budgeted, what, 42,000 for overtime, and through October, we were over 60,000 with 3 more months to go.
Yeah.
November, well, 2 more months to go.
We were 54, about right at 55,000.
So this could
With 2
save
more
us
months to go.
$35,000, $40,000 pretty easy.
In a year, it will save us probably close, 50,000 or so.
Significant.
Pretty significant. If it, in defense of the decision to go longer hours, if it had been beneficial to us,
If we'd made
if
more
we had
revenue.
increased our revenue,
yeah.
if we were crowded to the point where it needed to be, I'd be all for it.
Yeah.
But I don't know that we haven't really helped ourselves any. I think it's just added some expense, and you know, everyone likes a little extra money.
Sure.
But at the same time, we all know that
We have to be good stewards.
those 9 employees, we're gonna have to deal with insurance increases on all of them too. Not just those 9, but with the other
$20,000 increase in their
191 or
insurance.
whatever there is out there employee-wise. So it's gonna be a pretty big increase. But it's happening when they do it.
I have a copy. I came in just
Okay.
a little late, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Okay.
But it's the recommendation of the committee to do what?
The recommendation we'd like to consider is reducing the landfill hours to 7 hours a day.
To 7 hours a day, okay?
Yes, ma'am. And limiting the overtime on a normal day to no more than 4 hours a day. That would cover 4 key employees. I don't know that we actually have to do that, but
Okay, you say, what are the hours now?
their current hours are from 7 to 3. That's for the scales to be open,
Okay.
meaning that we can take trash between 7 and 3. What we're recommending is not open the scales until 7:30 and then close the scales at 2:30. But the employees would continue to come from 7 to 3, which gives them their 8-hour workday.
Okay.
So everybody that's out there has pretty much got used to overtime.
Pretty much. Now, most of those employees have been there
I was
with
fixing,
it, without it.
that's what I was fixing to ask. They've been, they're long time, most of them are long
Most
time
of them are long
employees.
time. There's a couple of new ones, but most of them are long time. There's been 2 that have been hired this year, I believe. But all the others have been there all the time.
And you said limit, the overtime to what? No more than 4 hours?
Well, it's strictly up to the group whether we want to limit or not. That might put us in a bind, I don't know. We just could monitor it, and then if it gets being abused, we'd do something else. But there are some times when you might have an emergency come up or situations where some key people would need to be there more than 1 hour a day. We don't want to put them in a position, I don't think, where they can't do their job. But under
No, 'cause
normal
it's-
circumstances, I think it's an understanding, under normal circumstances, they're gonna have, that would give them an hour and a half after the scale's closed to get it shut down and everything. And we need to keep in mind too, another thing that's coming up is this new equipment, which spreads the film, the plastic I call it. That should eliminate the closing down time. I mean, all you do is run that thing across the landfill a couple of times.
On the, what's been dumped that
It's
day.
attached to the compactor.
Yeah.
And so you just run it across and lay that down. My understanding is you lay it down, in strips, and then you're done for the day. The only time you have to cover with dirt is on a Friday with the new equipment. Right now, they're covering every day. But it's,
Well, I think you've got to try it myself. Because my worry with everything like that, but these people have been there a long time. They know the good and the bad of it.
they do.
And
And it's not a matter of trying to hurt anyone or anything
Right.
like that. It's just a matter of,
that's the way it needs to be put to them, they need to, I'm gonna tell you, the guy running it, if you'll explain that situation to him,
James will understand.
he'll understand it fully.
He
And
did before.
hopefully the rest of them would too.
He did before, when we made this same change before, he adapted, he understood it,
Yeah.
and there was no problem in doing
We didn't lose any key employees the last time
it.
we
We did
done it.
not lose any
Okay.
key employees. It's just a matter of operations, dollars and cents. It's not aimed at anyone. The guys there for the most part, they've been there quite a long time. And they have some perk that a lot of other county employees don't have. They all have a pickup truck.
Yeah.
And that they drive home. So that's a little benefit too, which helps supplement. We know we don't overpay anybody there.
Sure.
I mean, it's a hard job. They're there, they're good, they do their job. And we do, we pay the best we can, but we have to temper that along with everyone else in the county too.
Well, from what it was before and what it is now, it's like night and day.
Well, they have done a remarkable job, not only on paper, but if you go down there and look at the landfill, and I got to give credit to the judge on this, that was one of his main priorities. When you go down there and look at the place and see what has been done course, we got in a position where we had a little money where we could buy a tractor and could buy a bush hog and do some things, and we're getting the improvements finished up. But the overall appearance of the place is nothing, it's just unbelievable compared to what it was before.
Look like they've
I'm
done.
not on this committee, it'll have to come from,
Well, that's what I'm fixing to say. You're liking this idea yourself?
Yes,
As chairman, I make the recommendation that we go along with your plan.
do we have a second on that?
Second,
Lieutenant second. Any other discussion on it? Not all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
aye.
Any opposed? All right. And this has been discussed with the judge, and I'll get back with him. And we're gonna make it effective, January the 1st was his wishes.
That's a good idea.
I think that's a good idea too.
Yeah, I just have a question. I'm on
Yes, sir.
when are we gonna get that, new system for recovery? When is that supposed to take effect?
It is on order, from what JT has told me, it is on order. I think it maybe was a Canadian firm or something, but the order has been placed for it, is my understanding.
And they don't have a lead time on
I
it?
have not heard late.
Because I just looked and I was noticing your gravel budget, saying the gravel budget, we're already 180%.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And that's what's,
That would help
Okay.
bring that down too, won't
Yeah,
it?
sure will.
Now, you said,
not
excuse me,
1.4 million though.
That's true.
excuse me, you say you discussed it with the judge. Now, this has to go to the full court?
No, actually,
No?
I think he has the authority to make the change.
Oh, he does have that, okay.
Yes, ma'am. It's county property, and I think he has authority.
I think he's probably just looking for a little reassurance that that's probably the thing that that we would want to
That
do
the court
also.
concurs.
Oh, okay, so it doesn't have to go through the,
No, ma'am.
okay.
No, the judge, that's in his prerogative to do that. And he's indicated, we discussed it pretty thoroughly, and he's prepared to do it. He just would like.
As long as the committee say amen.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, I think we did say amen.
Is there anything else to come before the committee?
When are we gonna start the new cell deal? Where are we at on that?
The bid has been let, a company out of Poplar Bluff, 2.1, almost 2.2 million. As soon as they can get some weather where they can work, they will be going, they're ready to go.
Poplar Bluff?
Yeah,
That's not too far.
no, it's J&R or somebody, I don't know.
But they hadn't moved equipment down there.
And we've had no, they have not moved the equipment unless it's been moved this week. We had a meeting about 2 weeks ago, pre-construction meeting, Persons is the name of the company. And the engineer was there, JT was there. JT is sort of the judge's liaison with the landfill. He's very knowledgeable, and he has been a tremendous help as far as looking over the landfill, and he stays on top of it. He's done a good job. And the questions were answered, the engineer was there was a lot of questions about things and so forth. As far as I know, everything is on go. As soon as the weather permits, they're ready to get going. And hopefully they get going pretty quick. Because if they don't, we just have to work around it and hope that ADEQ is cooperative with us. And I think they will be. Anyone else have anything? If not, then we will stand adjourned. Appreciate you coming, everyone.
Miss Ann?